Manipur continues to be tense, and the government, the security forces and the intel agencies seem to be walking on eggshells, fearing any move on their part may trigger more acts of violence by the armed militants. Case in point, the Manipur security advisor and the Director General of Police had to refute the recent intelligence inputs issued by the Chief Minister's office of over 900 Kuki militants entering the state from Myanmar, claiming that the information could not be substantiated on the ground. Soon afterwards, it was the Chief Minister's office that had to backtrack on its earlier input. Meanwhile, the security forces have now recovered a fresh cache of arms and explosives in 2 districts in Manipur. Myanmar currency was also seized. There are rockets, weaponized drones and sophisticated arms and ammunition that have been used to attack civilians and armed forces in Manipur, which are proof enough that there are external forces at play that are using the locals to wage a proxy war against India. But are the state government's hands tied is the question that we ask. What is the central government so fearful that it refuses to take strong action against the perpetrators? Why is unabated infiltration of arms, drugs and militants being tolerated? Are we not even capable of guarding our own borders? Let's discuss this in greater detail. Joining me on the telecast is Major General G.D. Vivedi. And let's hear it from you, sir, about this very complicated, complex situation that has built up in Manipur, where it seems like the state government and the central government and the armed forces are not able to find any solution. They seem to be walking on eggshells. They are very scared to take any decision just in case there is a rebellion and an armed rebellion that they see from the locals.
Well, Megha, I think you have brought in some very pertinent points. And in fact, on NewsX, we have been discussing Manipur for last 1.5 years. And all I can say is that over a period of time, the situation has gone bad to worst. And today, Manipur is in chaos. It is out of control. And one simple reason that we can finger point is that the situation has not been handled in right earnest. It has been more of crisis management rather than trying to find a solution. What is the situation on the ground today? Well, both the communities, Kukis and Meiteis, are armed. Today, Manipur is like a war zone and separated these 2 communities by buffer zone, but the village volunteers and the militants of both sides, whether you take UNLF, PLA, KYKL, Pre-Pak on the Meitei side and Kuki Liberation Army and such like groups on the Kuki side, they are armed to the teeth. And these arms are readily available. About 6,000 were looted, hardly any arms could be recovered. And what are the recoveries you mentioned are only tip of the iceberg, minuscule. And on top of that, the major problem is that there is no chain of command. Central government is controlling Manipur through unified headquarters as a remote control. The Chief Minister of Manipur is actually out of the loop. The inter-agencies are working in isolation, in silos, and there is no proper synthesization of information. Like you brought out that couple of days back, there was a report by the security advisor, Mr. Kuldeep, that 900 Kukis have been infiltrated, and now this has been denied. So that is further loss of credibility because there is no process.
Well, absolutely.
I'll finish off. I wrote a op-ed only day for yesterday Tribune and brought out 3-4 very pertinent points. First and foremost, let's get the chain of command in order in Manipur. That today, this status quo is not going to work. Secondly, it's time that center now takes direct control of Manipur through presidential rule and get the security forces under one head and let the security forces now carry out the operation and disarm the groups of various kinds. Third point is that we need to take care of the borders because arms are freely flowing, whether in Myanmar or any other places they are readily available. And my last point is there has to be now trust built up. The wide gap between the 2 communities is actually horrendous. And if we further try to maintain status quo, do not address this situation in entirety, Manipur could be a catastrophic situation. We will not be able to retrieve it.
Absolutely. There's all the important pertinent points that are being raised by Gigi Dwivedi. Let me also get in a perspective from the locals, from the Meitei community and the Kuki community. Dr. Siram Rojesh, he's the Delhi Meitei Coordination Committee convener. Thank you very much for joining us. And if you could help us understand from the Meitei point of view, the situation that continues to escalate. There seems to be no end in sight about how there can be resolution, how there can be some sort of a discussion on the table to bring in the two communities. That is the internal strife. But on the other hand, there are these external forces that are now going ahead and taking advantage of this very precarious situation and allowing for militants to be infiltrated, arms and drugs and training being given to these infiltrators to spread violence and chaos and attack civilians and armed forces alike.
Thank you, Vega, for being invited here. First of all, I would like to say that I'm giving you the view as a Meitei, as a Manipuri, and as you know that Manipur has 34 recognized community, and Meitei is one of the 34 community we have. So you can sense that this is also a representation of voice of the communities who wanted to live with peace, dignity, and the coexistence of all the communities. That is number one. Number two, what Meitei wants from this war. Actually, we are forced to drag out in this war because the state government have taken some initiative, resolutions, trying to, do, these attacks or even curb the drug manias, and also protection of the forest area, and also trying to identify from citizen to from non-citizens. So these are the initiatives taken by the state government with the permission from the central government. But because of these initiatives, some sectoral forces, they thought that this is against the interest of their continuing drug cartels, drug business, and also trying to change the demography of the region. So they simply started attacking the Meitei communities so that they get their own, that exclusive territory. That is what. So what Meitei want is only the territorial integrity and the coexistence of Manipur. This is number one.
Okay.
What Kuki wants from this war, of course, it is a separate administration and the union territory. By using the violence as a means to get that, and that is how, as we all know, that the first attack was happened in Chulchampur, neighboring district in Torbung area at around 3:30 p.m. and 7 p.m. So the second in Chulchampur in More and this area, the Kuki armed militant, they have taken advantage of the tension on the day, and they started attacking the Meiteis. That was the beginning of the problem. But unfortunately, again, subsequently, the violence spread in Imphal and other. But many of the media group are still trying to confuse that the violence was started from Imphal. It was never started from Imphal.
Okay, all right.
So let's put the facts,
fair enough.
Okay,
fine. You've made your point. I also have with me Kachin Langel. He's from the Central Secretarial. In the Ministry of Water Resources. Kachin, let's hear it from you. Let's hear your point of view. Do you think the internal conflict between the two communities is now being taken advantage of by external forces, and what should be done?
No, I don't think the external forces are involved in this thing. It is simply the incompetence of the state government. They are not fair, they are not just, they are not telling the truth. From the beginning, even if, I will not blame any community, even if one or the other party is guilty on 3rd May, why was it allowed to continue so long? Why can't it be stopped within 1 week or 2 weeks? Why same thing are being repeated? bunkers are removed, then the attacks happen, nobody arrested, thousands of guns are looted, but nobody is arrested. How can violence be allowed to go on in a state where a government exists for more than 16 months? This is unjustifiable. That means the government is not concerned at all. There are too many lies being projected as the truth, propaganda, and the latest one is the report of the 900 Kuki strain from Myanmar coming.
Mr. Kachin, how do you explain and justify that there are these weaponized, very sophisticated drones and rockets that have been traced? There have been these attacks that have been made on civilians and on the armed forces with these weapons, with such sophistry, and on top of it, how is it that these individuals or the armed rebels could be trained in such a fashion to use these weapons?
Madam, necessity is the mother of invention. So when people are so frustrated, they have to do something to defend themselves.
I'm not too sure if that is a justification that
Yes,
really
madam.
could be bought. That really could be bought. There you have it. The Indian armed forces have never had a weaponized drone. There have been not a single attack that has happened on the armed forces on the eastern front, on the western front, or on the northern front against China. And suddenly you see that there are these weaponized drones, sophisticated weaponized drones and rockets that are being used to attack the civilians, to drop bombs on buildings. How again logic says that there has to be external forces involved in this entire ruckus that is responsible for the situation that Manipur is currently facing. I also have with me Dr. Thong Halal Haukip from the Center for the Study of Law and Governance, JNU. My question over here, if there was political will from the state government side and from the central government side, this violence can be very easily quelled. Why is it not being done so?
Yeah, definitely. There is lack of political will, and the state has been unable to do this because they wanted it to perpetuate it. There are two clear cases which I would like to put out this afternoon, and we can call it a clear case, two clear cases. You have the valley in the center of the state, and you have the hills which are covered with terrains, mountainous forests, where the reach of the state is very less. So here, in these two distinct geography, you have the insurgent groups from the hill areas, right? All of the insurgent groups in the hill areas, they are under suspension of operations with ground rules, as well as ceasefire with the Naga insurgent groups. So there are ground rules, and the law and order can be maintained in these hill areas through this SOO and ceasefire. On the other hand, you have Imphal Valley, where the insurgent groups, most of them are categorized as terrorist groups by the Home Ministry. And the reach of the state in this valley is very much effective. However, you can see that during this conflict, the state is unable to control this kind of artillery, which are mobile, which are modified and carried out throughout the length and breadth of the Imphal Valley, and the police and the army has not been controlling all this kind of manufacturing, as well as the firing and attack by these radical groups, as well as assisted by the armed militias. So this is the clear case of how the two geographical areas can be controlled. And if you wanted to bring about law and order, then you have to look into all these arms proliferating. And to my point, the hills can be controlled very easily through the suspension of operations and the ground rules that are still operating. And the problem, to my opinion, why this violence is continued is that the valley people who are in political majority for the last more than 45 years, they wanted to maintain this dominance. And in the last 2 decades, the union government has notified delimitation, right, to the assembly constituencies. And as per the rules, about 5 or 6, seats from the valley would be given to the hill areas, and the dominance of this valley would be reduced. So they are opposing this kind of constitutional and democratic mechanism that are in place.
Do you think
And
vested interests of all parties, whether it is the Kukis, the Meiteis, the state government, and the central government, whichever way they look at it, is at this point of time being taken advantage of? This is at the cost of the country's secure borders, the infiltration of drugs and arms, which has been continuing. How do we change the discourse? How do we take action to ensure, first, number one, the country's safety and security and national integrity, that is of utmost importance?
definitely that will come, when all these, ground rules with the militant groups, the insurgent groups are maintained, and cooperation has been given by the armed groups in the hill areas, because they are in suspension of operation, they are in peace agreement sooner or later with the central government. And with that, you can have a peaceful hills where you can have a lot of developmental activities going on. For instance, More, which would be the gateway to the east, to China, to Thailand, to Burma, and other places. So they are in talks. Why is the Manipur government always hindering, a kind of peaceful settlement, political settlement with?
Okay, all right. Let's say from Major General G. Dwivedi, how do you view, when a number of these arguments and counter arguments are put by the sympathizers, by the supporters of the Meitei tribe, or the Meitei community, or the Kuki tribe, and again, attacking each of the communities and talking about how the other one is at fault, and therefore the onus lies on those individuals in that community. We've not been able to find a solution for the last so many decades. Is there a chance to do it now? And again, the same question: why are the governments reluctant on going ahead and figuring it out once and for all?
The panel, there are panelists from two communities, and how they are trying to jockey the case of their respective community. Well, this is exactly the reflection what is on the ground today. Manipur is polarized, it's factionalized, and I am afraid it could be balkanized, because the Kukis are demanding the hill district, Nagas are already demanding Nagaland, and therefore I think this is a very serious issue. Now, 3-4 important points. First and foremost, it's no more a Kuki and Meitei problem, it's a national problem, because it concerns national security. Secondly, current status quo cannot be maintained. It's untenable, because the state government has lost the confidence of the people. It is seen as partisan. Therefore, central rule has to be imposed. The third important point is that until we get these security forces to act, today security forces are only standing by, and therefore there is a free run by the militants and the groups of that kind. In fact, the suspension of Operation Draft Agreement was signed in Limakong in 2005 when I was the GOC. But there is no agreement with the UNLF, PLA, or any Meitei group. Armed Forces Special Power Act is not applicable in the valley. So therefore, until whole state is brought under one kind of a control, under the central government, this kind of whataboutery will continue, and both sides will keep blaming each other. I think my last point is the situation cannot be allowed to deteriorate any further. The central government, the president's rule must be imposed. The armed forces must come in and disarm the groups. Border management has to be taken care of. And today it's a national problem and no more a Kuki or a Meitei problem. Mega.
Mr. Langal, do you think President's rule and the armed forces being brought in to take control of the situation is going to be a solution that will allow for peace and harmony to be brought back to the state?
That is long overdue, madam. Armed Forces Special Power Act is applicable in the hills, but withdrawn from Valley from 1st April 2023, and all hell broke loose on 3rd May. And now Imphal Valley is swarming with militants freely. No operation in Imphal Valley, but operation in the hilltops. So this is very discriminatory, madam. The government should act impartially and with fairness. The people should know that they are not treated unfairly. Everyone should be given equal treatment. Whoever is wrong, if there are drug dealers, let the government arrest them. If there are narco drug terrorists, why didn't the government arrest them?
Okay, all right. The same question to you, Dr. Siram Rajesh. Is President's rule and armed forces being deployed in the region going to resolve the solution, going to solve the problem once and for all?
Look, this, insisting to bring armed forces special powers again all over Manipur is completely very disgusting, and it's unacceptable, because we have been saying that this AFSPA should be repealed.
No, we're not talking about AFSPA should be brought into force once again. I'm saying President's rule. Since at this point of time, there are communities who do not have trust in the state government. Will President's rule allow for some harmony to be brought back?
Yeah. No, of course the center can call that issue, but I will tell you one thing, that the state government has failed on the 3rd and 4th to protect the life and liberty of both the Kukis and Meiteis in all the hill district and in Imphal. That is true. But from 5th onward, the Manipur is under the direct command from the Central Security Forces and the New Delhi. Then how will you blame the state government in that sense, that you are actually controlling everything? You are commanding 75,000 forces. These 75,000 forces are actually watching the bloodshed between the communities, and now the forces are assisting to deport one population from other population, rather trying to stop the violence. They are actually trying to support the division of the state. So it actually looks like that the government of India have an agenda to divide the community by supporting a Kuki armed militant group, as many of the people are saying.
Do you agree with Dr. Ramesh that it is the government of India that has an agenda to divide Manipur and pit one community against the other?
Against any of this armed militant group, they should take it. They should take action.
Dr. Howkip, would you like to respond?
In any liberal state, special powers for the army is not recommended. But however, the situation in Manipur right now demands AFSPA, special powers to the army, because the Mera parties, the women folks have become more stronger than the army, mocking them, chasing them. All those sorts of pictures are emerging in the social media. And as an Indian citizen, I can't even look into how the army has been degraded.
But the point is, when the people of Manipur themselves are distrustful, suspect the government of India's intention towards the people, how do we find a solution?
No, the hill people do not suspect the Indian government. Maybe the valley people may have, but we have full trust in the central government to solve the crisis in Manipur, and that's why many of the insurgent groups in the hills are demanding union territory with legislature for the hill people, so that they are administered, with a kind of justice and some form of equitable treatment to their own people. So they have full trust in the central government, and they are also asking for the president's rule, so that the whole of Manipur can be ruled by the central government until a certain political order is arrived in this state.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.